Now, many of you are members of the Farmers Club and therefore familiar with its role. You might also be aware of the charitable objectives of the British Crop Production Council, which celebrated its half-century 2 years ago, promoting science, best practice and innovation in agriculture through a range of technical publications and events. And furthermore, it now operates under the umbrella of NIAB. That's a significant step, given an increasing number of thinking people in the industry feel that knowledge exchange based on fact, not fiction or bias, holds the key to the future success of UK farming and the well-being of the countryside it protects as we move rapidly towards Brexit and beyond, and seek ways of dealing with even more complicated overriding issues, including the impact of climate change at global and local level. Of course, some key influencers, a few politicians among them, don't accept that's happening because it doesn't fit in with their short-term plans, focusing on their popularity or financial gain. However, we all need to heed the long-term forecast and understand the steps which we should and can take now to protect us from the storm which is heading our way. And if evidence of climate change caused by global warming, driven by greenhouse gas emissions, is needed, there was another stark reminder from Delft University in the Netherlands last week that 2 of Antarctica's largest glaciers are breaking up due to rising temperatures. Meanwhile, here in the UK, recent Met Office statistics reveal the past decade holds 8 high temperature records, compared with only 1 low temperature record. They also revealed that 2019 was the 5th wettest year on record. And as many of us experienced firsthand, that pattern of high rainfall continued well into the spring of this year. It all comes as a stark reminder, as a recent NFU survey pointed out, that UK agriculture is in the front line of climate change impacts. That survey revealed 60% of farm businesses were affected by severe weather in the past 10 years, particularly the financial cost and worries that can bring, as exemplified by one of our wettest autumns and winters, followed by a spring and early summer drought, which has proved to be a destructive combination of limiting field operations, impeding germination and crop establishment throughout the year. And not surprisingly, that has not only impacted adversely on yield this season, it has also resulted in long-term damage to soil structure. And importantly, those effects not only hit farmers and the farming industry, but also UK consumers and the UK's fragile economy. As growers appreciate, it is the unpredictability of our changing weather patterns which present one of the biggest concerns. And sad to say, statistics suggest the past season was not a one-off, which is why this seminar sets out to put climate change in perspective for UK farmers and the environment they protect. Our specialist panel of speakers will explain some of the challenges and, more importantly, detail the opportunities for UK agriculture so that it can make the most of our world's long-term weather forecast. Now, who better qualified to open our technical seminar on climate change than Rebecca Pow, Minister for the Environment at DEFRA. Rebecca is passionate about farming and the environment and countryside it helps to protect, which is good news because as Parliamentary Under-Secretary at DEFRA, she deals with climate change adaptation and coordination of DEFRA's input towards meeting net zero carbon emissions set for 2050. She's accumulated a wealth of experience in Parliament, going from a number of departments. She's a scientist by training, a former BBC, ITV and Channel 4 reporter, specialising in the environment, farming and gardening, and has also worked for the National Farmers Union. Given all that's going on because of the pressure of parliamentary business, unfortunately, Rebecca is unable to join us live on Zoom today, but despite that, she took time last evening to provide us with this video link outlining her thoughts.
Hello everybody, I'm delighted to be speaking at this Crop Production Council seminar. I'm Rebecca Pow, the Environment Minister. I'm very pleased as well that I've got Steve Howe chairing the event. Steve used to appear regularly on Farming Today many years ago when I was the presenter of it, and he was the editor of Farmers Weekly. Slightly ironic that he used to give me a certain amount of stick in the magazine for my interest in the environment. So how things have changed. Anyway, the subject that you're addressing today is climate change, absolutely pertinent right now in these very strange times. The lockdown times, of course, which is why we're here on Zoom and I can't be with you in person. The impacts of climate change are obviously being felt globally, with current global average temperatures having risen by around 1% relative to pre-industrial times, and atmospheric concentrations of carbon dioxide are at their highest level for at least 800,000 years. This unprecedented warming has already resulted in multiple effects, and despite increased ambition for climate change mitigation, some of these effects are unavoidable. I expect a lot of you saw the Attenborough documentary on this very subject, and it was certainly quite spine-chilling. We are taking strong action to address climate change as a government. In June of 2019, the UK became the first major economy in the world to set a legally binding target to achieve net zero emissions across sectors by 2050. And we're building from a strong foundation, having already cut emissions by 42% since 1990, whilst growing the economy by 72%. Agriculture is a key sector for both adaptation and mitigation, given that farmers are on the front line of climate change. Farming livelihoods are especially vulnerable, as many of you will know, to increasing variability of temperature and rainfall, as well as to the impacts of increasingly frequent extreme weather events that result from climate change. And we've already witnessed a lot of these, and we have been warned that to expect more of these frequent extreme weather events. And as also the flood minister, I'm only too well aware of some of those. Extreme examples are, for example, 570,000 hectares of land classed as best and most versatile is currently at considerable risk of flood-related damage, and this is expected to rise to 750,000 hectares in 2050 in a 2-degree scenario, and to 940,000 hectares should this rise to a 4-degree C scenario. So what about the role of farmers in addressing climate change? Whilst emissions have fallen over the past 30 years due to implementation of more efficient practices, there is much more to do if we are to achieve our economy-wide net zero target in the UK, and farmers will need to play their part in this. Furthermore, emissions reduction needs to be examined in the context of longer-term considerations of food security, land use and natural resources. Our ambitious agriculture bill will work with the 25-year environment plan and the clean growth strategy to continue guiding emissions reduction in this sector. Part 2 of the National Food Strategy will be published in 2021 and will look at how the food system can contribute to the UK reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Despite mitigation, adapting to inevitable changes to our climate is vital. The second National Adaptation Programme, a 5-yearly requirement under the UK Climate Change Act, sets out how we will address climate risks identified in the UK Climate Change Risk Assessment between 2018 and 2023. In its dedicated Natural Environment chapter, the National Adaptation Programme sets out a vision to promote profitable and productive farming and forestry sectors that take opportunities from climate change, are resilient to its threats, and contribute to the resilience of the natural environment by helping to maintain ecosystem services. So what about opportunities for the agricultural sector? There is a wide variety of possible innovative solutions to the impact of climate change. Insights derived from the UK climate projections, the UK CP18, produced in partnership with the Met Office Hadley Centre, are informing our thinking on adaptation pressures and supporting analysis on the likely impacts of climate change on global crop yields. At the agribusiness and farm level, exploring the use of farm benchmarking and carbon accounting tools can highlight potential productivity gaps and help shed more light on where emissions from your farm arise. And there's a great deal of focus now in my department on emissions from agriculture and how to tackle them. While we're already funding resilience research, adaptation work, and the DEFRA crop genetic improvement platform that seeks to enhance UK crop sustainability and resilience, we plan to develop future publicly funded research and innovation further. With technological fixes being actually part of the solution, obviously that's a very important part, but what's really crucial is that we have a balanced approach which also respects and enhances nature. This means decarbonising while using nature-based solutions and promoting biodiversity. For example, trees planted alongside farmland to sequester carbon could offer benefits for flood management, soil stability, biodiversity and recreation, which in turn will make farming livelihoods more diversified and resilient. As the cornerstone of agricultural policy, our new environmental land management scheme will pay farmers and land managers to deliver environmental public goods and will reward activities that reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases and sequester carbon. Land management activities that could be funding through ELM include creating and enhancing habitats for species threatened by climate change and actions to reduce the risk of flooding. Before this scheme is launched in England in 2024, it will be tested through a national pilot from 2021. And the ELM system will be a key platform for delivering targets set in the Environment Bill, which is due to come back to its committee stage in Parliament shortly, and which I am steering through. And it's really important that these two bills and measures in them work and dovetail together to deliver what we need for the future. It's clear that farm businesses supported by government must be proactive about forward planning and future-proofing for a changing climate, adapting for impacts such as increased flooding and drought, considering future crop suitability and improving land and business resilience are essential to the continued sustainable productivity and growth of the agricultural sector. That really draws my remarks to a close. There's obviously a great deal more that could be said, and I'm sure in your seminar you will thrash out some of those issues that are key concerns to you. And I've said to Steve, I'd be really pleased to have a readout of your seminar and some of the key points that you raise. And if there are just some specific questions you would like answered, I would be very happy to answer them. Obviously, this is a really, really important issue. We've got this climate crisis and this fast changing world, and adapting to it and being able to protect and enhance our environment whilst at the same time producing food healthily and sustainably is going to be really, really important. And that's where the agricultural industry's involvement will be key.